So thank you for inviting me for this plenary talk. It's a pleasure to be here. And I will be talking today about the development and role of symmetry in ancient scripts. And this is a very special talk for me because it has something to do with both science and art. We will see this. So, need to advance. There is a fundamental question which I would like to deal with today. And that question is, why are there so many signs with mirror symmetry in ancient scripts? This, by the way, is a picture in Hydra island in Greece, okay, that we had in one summer. So, advancing is like this, okay. So the English alphabet letters with mirror symmetry include these 11 letters, A, H, I, and so on. And as you can see, if I cut in the middle, then the left and the right side is the same for the letter M. So for any other, for letter V as well. A total of 11 out of 26, or 42.3% of the letters have a mirror symmetry. That seems to be pretty amazing, high, 42%. We didn't think about this before. When I look at the Phaistos Disk, this was my PhD advisor's, Paris Kanalakis' favorite. He had a copy of this on his desk in his office at Brown University. And he was proud to show this to other visitors. So anyway, so this Phaistos Disk, an ancient Minoan writing, has many symmetries in its signs. I show you a few examples. We can see that 13 out of 45, or 28.9% of the signs have a mirror symmetry. And if we can go to the linear A script, then we see even more signs with mirror symmetry. And I also give here a few examples. There are about 88 signs which are considered frequent. These signs are also shared with the linear B script, which was the following script after linear A ended, okay? Linear A was a Minoan script from about 1800 to 1450 BC, while linear B was the Mycenaean script that followed from 1450 BC onward. Among these frequent signs, 42 out of 88, that is 47.7%, are mirrored. Now I go to the Indus Valley script, which existed from about 2400 to 1900 BC. And this has an amazing number of different signs. Some authors count 694 signs. And what's even more amazing to me is that 353, that is over 50% of them have a mirror symmetry. Again, I give here a few examples. And these examples, as you can see, all have the mirror symmetry property, whether it's a fish or a window or a tree or so on. I found that mirror symmetry is common in scripts. In fact, we have the Egyptian script, which has too many hieroglyphs to be shown here. The Sumerian from 3100 BC, the Proto-Elamite, the Indus Valley script, the Cretan hieroglyphs, Linear B, the Phoenician alphabet, considered the first alphabet, and then the ancient Greek alphabet, and the Brahmi script from India, from around 400 BC. As you can see, all of these have various mirror signs, and in fact, more frequent than we would expect from just pure random. So there has to be some kind of explanation. Why are there so many mirrored signs? Well, one theory is that we have Boustrophedon writing, and that is a cause of the symmetry. An example of such writing is from 500 BC from the town of Gortyn. This is called the Gortyn Code, legal code, and it's written in ancient Greek letters, as you can see. The name implies as the ox goes in Greek. And it indicates that we have a type of writing where in one row we go left to right, then right to left, and alternate. This makes the writing easier to read because the signs are next to each other always. Okay, so that's very nice. On the other hand, ambiguity may arise. For example, let's try to write down the word God from right to left. We get this. This is not very good because it's ambiguous. It can be read as dog in English, another word. So what can we do? A possible solution is to mirror the letters. That means that I will write G backward, O backward, and D backward. Okay? Do you see it? And now it's very obvious that we have to read such a sequence of letters from right to left, and therefore we have written down God. If you look carefully on the Gortyn code, you see in the red bracket the two signs for E, and one of them is reversed from the normal in the fourth line with respect to the third line. So this is used in the ancient Greek writing. Such Boustrophedon writing is also found in Linear A script. Here's an example from Knossos. In here, you see the first row goes from left to right and the second from right to left. And I also highlight one of the signs that you can very clearly see is mirrored between the two rows. Not only this, but also the Indus script has similar writings. On the left, I have a table where I show some of the symbols, and very interesting, the symbols have symmetric counterparts. In the left column, leftmost column, I have the standard facing symbols. We can tell because it has a high frequency, and in the third column, we have the reverse, which has less frequency and rare. But you see the one on the third row occurs there, in the second row in the first writing, and Also in the second row, the other symbol reversed occurs. So the theory that can be developed here is that Boustrophedon writing has been developed because of easier to read. The letters are next to each other, but to avoid ambiguity, okay, it has to be reversed, the characters, and it is cumbersome. Now, everyone can see that it's enough to have a few mirror signs to show the direction of reading. For example, it's enough to have E and its reverse, as shown here. The other signs are not really needed to be all mirrored precisely. Therefore, it's enough if they have a simple shape, which in this case, when you need to write from left to right and right to left, that means simplified to having a mirror symmetry. So the Boustrophedon writing is encouraging, according to this theory, the mirror symbols development. And there is some evidence for a tendency for having over time a greater number of mirror signs. For example, we have two Minoan scripts. One is the Phaistos Disk script, where we have seen the letters are more little pictures, logograms perhaps. Therefore, it's more ancient. It's believed to be around 1800 BC, whereas the Minoan linear A ranges from about that time all the way to 1450 BC. So it's generally later period. And there is indeed an increase of the percent of mirror sign from 28.9% to 47.7%. But there's another very interesting theory for the development of mirrored signs in scripts. And this has to do with certain religious beliefs. Let me give you some examples of writings which are clearly right to left writings. These two are shown on the top one and the bottom. And as you can see, they are not Boustrophedon writings, but they are read right to left. It's very clear that this first one on the top is just a fragment from a little tablet called the libation tablet. And the script is all around the edge of this item. And this is another example, which is a silver pin. And this silver pin has some carved symbols in it. And this writing in linear A also has to be read from right to left as indicated by the arrows in the bottom. So why these items, which are not Boustrophedonic writings, need to be read from right to left? An interesting theory is that these somehow are connected with religious beliefs. In particular, afterlife is connected somehow to water reflection. In ancient times, spirits of the dead were thought to reside in the depths of lakes in many cultures. And this is one example that I have here in Druid graves, so it's a Celtic custom. The dead person's weapons were placed at his left side. So normally people are right-handed and they need the lance or other objects to be on the right side. But they actually had in the left hand, because in the spirit world, you were supposed to be a reflection of your earthly self, leave more as a reflection, and then you will need it in your left hand. Okay, interesting. Okay, now here, this idea here from the reflection in the lake was carried forward also to mirrors. And when you have a mirror, of course, it will be giving back the same thing as we had before. So God will be written as reversed here in blue. Okay, as you can see, that's a mirror image. So simply, this is the idea. And we can see one thing very clearly. All the cited Minoan writings are religious texts. So let's take a look at the silver pin. I actually worked on deciphering the linear A script, and I worked on this some years ago. At the bottom, we have the citation reference to the paper where this appears. But the translation which was proposed for this silver pin, read from right to left, is as shown here. It's a little bit complicated, some lines, because the grammar is indicated, the past tense word, the preposition, and so on, all indicated the grammar as well as the basic words. So the text which emerges is, on waters flowed the queen down to you. But many other texts make it clear that this queen is a goddess, which can be translated as mother goddess. So in a freer translation, just a little bit freer translation, it can be said that the mother goddess rained her blessings on you. The other two texts, which were read right to left, they are also, as I mentioned, fragments of libation tablets on which there was a fragment of the libation formula, as they say. This formula is, with minor variations, a repetitive formula that they found in many objects of religious kind. Some kind of prayer, they thought. Now, the reconstruction that we could give is, at least in one variation, the others cannot be too far from this, is rise up all cave spirits, wind, river, spring, and cloud. Okay? Now, this is a little bit strange looking for us for a little bit, but there are indications that the Minoans had a lot of connection with caves. Many of the burials were in caves, and that's where remains are found today. And this is also the origin of many rivers. They come out from caves. Wind, there are very heavy winds, okay? And clouds also were possibly, okay? Many forces of nature, okay? They may or may not have known volcanoes as well. So the second theory that can be developed based on this is that writing in reverse, that is, for the Minoans, right to left would be the reverse of the normal, is considered a better way to communicate with the other world and the spirit of the other world. And similarly to the previous one, we have only a few signs enough to show the direction of the reading, and the other signs tend to be simplified. So if you have with a certain frequency religious text that you would like to write right to left for this reason, okay, then again, there's a pressure over time to simplify at least the majority of the signs to be having mirror symmetry, okay? The two do not exclude each other, let me emphasize. So you can have this as a motivation for the simplification as well as the first one, okay? Now let me tell you a little bit about other causes of mirrored signs in ancient scripts. If we look at the Indus script, we can see that very good and very clever use of mirrored sign occurs in this example. We have the bow symbol. This is a bow. And it's reversed in the writing here, probably for the reason to save space. You have the X-like symbol, and this bow, when it's reversed, fits very nicely into the X and saves space. These seals from the Indus Valley are often just a few centimeters by a few centimeters of size, and so they had to be very much saving on space. In general, with an Indian PhD student, Shruti Daggumati, we could classify the mirrored signs as shown here into 8 different types. There's a lot of work behind this. We went through all of the inscriptions available for the Indus Valley to determine these types, okay, when we were debating a lot about these things. So these include some of the things that I said to save space, the Boustrophedon Writing, also some errors. Here is some example of errors. The first one, where the sign is reversed, as you can see in the red bracket, is going to be classified as an incorrect carving, a carving error, because clearly the others are same sequence or very similar sequences, and they are reversed for that. A very interesting type of anomaly is the location anomaly. Here we see 3 large cities of the Indus Valley civilization: Harappa, Mohenjo-daro, and Lothal. In Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, the symbol shown here, there are 2 symbols in the second column and the fourth column, are in the standard form. And in Lothal, both of the symbols are reversed. So there must have been some scribe in Lothal who regularly reversed some signs. And we don't know why. Okay, we just have this anomaly noticed. And we wonder, can we find other examples of such reversal, which is specific to the location of Lothal. There are other interesting things about the signs. And although in both the left and the right, the signs are symmetric, mirror symmetric, but the sign on the left is like a 6-star, whereas the sign on the right is a 4-star. And it's on the right, this is a simplification, which was done also probably to save space, because here, as you can see, because of the horn of the bull, we have less space than on the left side. So this simplification has been introduced. Now, let me have a challenge question to the audience. Which direction should we read these 2 objects? From the center to the outside, or outside to the center? The left side is the Phaistos Disk, and the right side is a gold ring. They are both spiral. What do you think? Okay. Anybody? Center
if
to
you
outside.
Think about continuation, then from the center outside would be opening that we can continue, but it's just pure guess.
Okay, it's a guess. Okay, good guess. Now, these are regular objects, so these are not so special to be read right to left. So these are regular, which means in the Minoan linear A script and other Minoan scripts, the left to right direction. To be left to right, the Phaistos disk has to be read from the center outside, and the other to be similarly left to right has to be read from the outside to the center. Okay, so they are both are read left to right, but interestingly, as you can see here, the characters on the Phaistos disk on the left are pointing, the head points to the center, and here, like this little tree, its crown is pointing outside. That's why you have to have different reading directions. So on the left, center to outside, and on the right, outside to center, in order for both objects to keep the left to right reading. Okay, that was a challenge question. Thank you for listening, and I'm ready for any questions.
Well, I just wanted to make a comment. It's fascinating. It's very, very interesting. And it opens all additional direction of thinking about symmetry on one hand, and on the other hand, about like human cognitive action involved in writing and reading. Thank you very much. It's fascinating.
Thank you. There are many things that I would like to explore, and there are many open questions. Obviously, I like to test these hypotheses that over time, in every region of the world, the number of mirrored signs tend to increase. In Minoan, we can see that. We can see a little bit at the Indus Valley script, but I need to check it for more and more. And also, very interesting, the religious objects, okay. This needs to be tested for other things. The problem is with the Indus Valley script, we don't really have a translation. Of course, many people say that we don't have a translation for linear A either, but of course I worked myself, so I believe I got it right. At least these examples which I have given you, it's always a little bit speculative. I understand that the translations can be a little speculative, but these are verifiably religious objects. In the Indus Valley script, we don't know. We don't know what's religious object and what not. So we don't know how to test this yet. We try to do for Sumerian and so on. So, okay. So there's a lot of things here. There are a lot of things here. Okay. Thank you for this.
Peter, I would like to emphasize one fact because maybe it is not clear for very many people. So ladies and gentlemen, please be ready for a strange statement. We are at a holy moment in the following sense. If you study the literature, you would see that the linear B was finally understood And this was in the 1950s, headlines elsewhere. Chadwick, Venturi, of course, very many books and even newspapers on the front page dealt with this. And if you study the scholarly literature, you see that linear A is not yet understood. And looks like we are very close to understanding linear A. So this is not some, how to say, some investigation of symmetries of letters, but it is the very, very center of a revolution in understanding of ancient writing. My understanding is that linear B was a little bit easy to understand because it was based on Greek language, or more precisely a dialect of Greek language. So therefore, statistical approach was very useful. Incidentally, one of the person, and Ted Goranson is not yet here with us, but one of the person was interested in deciphering of the word vote code. So it was military research and philological research, and again, linear B is understood. But the earlier Cretan writing is linear A is not yet fully understood and looks like not a philologist, but a computer scientist may make a breakthrough. So Peter, I congratulate you. Now, the only trouble that I have very many questions, so I would not like to, we have time for questions, so I encourage people to put questions. We have Chinese participant. I would like to add a note that I studied the symmetry of Hanza, or in Japanese, kanji sign, and very interesting to see from the point of view of symmetry, because the Chinese and Japanese and ancient Korean writing, of course, the Hanza or Hanzi or kanji, there are various levels, the pictographic, the ideographic, and pictoideographic, and the very ancient Hanzi or kanji, usually symmetric because of various, maybe similar reasons. And also don't forget, it is easier to make, much more easier to make. No, it is open for questions. So do you have any questions?
I would be glad to answer questions, but I also can have a few comments.
Please go ahead.
Okay, so what you were saying is very much right. These scripts of linear A and linear B were both discovered in 1900 by Sir Arthur Evans when he was excavating Knossos Palace. So that was 121 years ago. And linear B was solved in 1952. And it was solved as a very archaic form of Greek by Michael Ventris, a British scientist. And it was relatively easily verified. It's very important to say this, because when you have classicists who normally study Greek history, and it includes the Minoans, okay, they all know Greek. So they could very easily verify that the translations are good. It's not the case for these translations, because it has been my discovery that this language, I didn't talk about this because it's, not about symmetry per se, but it has been my research for many years now. And I can say that this language and script has been studied, and the underlying language, that is Minoan, okay, language of the linear A script and Cretan hieroglyphs, is an agglutinative language, and it has front-back vowel harmony. This can be shown by just an analysis of the script. Now, these features of agglutination and front-back vowel harmony fits, in general, the Finno-Ugric language family. It doesn't fit other language families, including Afro-Asiatic. It doesn't fit Indo-European languages. Indo-European languages are different. Actually, Kartvelian languages also don't fit the second part, the front-back vowel harmony. So it's really by elimination, we just arrive here. Then I also looked at the possible origin of Minoans, and then this can be studied by various ways. Let me share a screen which will show, let me try to show you this. If you're really interested in more details, please see my YouTube channel. The YouTube channel, which you see here, just type in my name and you will get there, will give you on the Minoans. This video breaks through decipherment of Minoan linear array. I described there the essential ideas and techniques. Then I have this video here, which is the vowel harmony testing algorithm for ancient scripts. This tests what kind of language we have. Then we have another one here. This is the art analysis. And I show here relationship between the Minoan art and the Danube Basin Neolithic art. And then I have a video for genetics, and I show here relationship between Minoan archaeogenetics and Danube Basin archaeogenetic samples, okay? So all of these are here if you are interested, because it's a comprehensive thing. I went into many details. And frankly, because it's necessary, okay? When we have so few writings, everyone will want to know, how does it fit together with the whole thing? So it fits together, actually, the art, the genetics, the analysis of the scripts, the type of the scripts, as well as the decipherment. The decipherment is harder to verify because it's not Greek, but it's a Finno-Ugric language. And I believe it is containing ancient words in the Finno-Ugric language family. So all of the words that I use belong to reconstructed proto-words in this language family, related to some Hungarian words, some Finnish words, Estonian words. These are the well-known members of this language family. So that helped in the translation, and still continuing because there are many more things to do.
You use the term agglutinative language, and maybe it is not clear for everyone. So may I explain very briefly? So there are some languages where there are a lot of prefixes and suffixes, and it is possible to express very many things with prefixes and suffixes. May I give you an example which I invented? For example, in Hungarian, legegészségesebeinkeknek, this is one word, legegészségesebeinkeknek. You speak Hungarian, so please correct me. So legegészségesebeinkeknek, this means for those people among us who are the healthiest. And this is one word in Hungarian. Or if I see a beautiful girl, I may say, I love you in one word, because I and also you is included szeretlek. So this is not two words or not three words like in English or German. French, je t'aime, okay, we may discuss that this is two word or one word. But anyway, agglutinative languages may put a lot of things into one compound. And these languages are not Indo-European, as you mentioned. But the trouble is, Peter, that there are other agglutinative languages, for example, Sumerians or Sumerian, as you said, both pronunciation is possible. So I don't know. I confess you that you should have a long battle, I believe, because these ideas are so new and the linguistic community is a little bit rigid. So I wish you all of the best. But I have seen a lot of interesting comment in chat. So for example, about Chinese. So Zhao, Ms. Zhao, would you be so kind to say publicly what you wrote? Did you see her note?
I've seen it in the chat.
Yeah, in chat. Are
Yes.
you here?
Everybody can see the chat.
Yeah, so it is a very interesting comment, I believe.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that.
Because you spoke about many languages in Europe and Asia, but not about Chinese. And okay, yeah. Yes, please go ahead.
I would like to say one thing, okay? I really appreciate being here, and we are scientists, and we believe in science, okay? And for me, this is the most important thing, okay? It's very secondary that these Minoan writings turn out to be related or not related to Hungarian. All that happened is that I had this wonderful Greek advisor for PhD, and I got to know a lot of Greek people who became very good friends of mine. And in 2008, I was invited as a Fulbright scholar and visitor to the University of Athens, the main university in Athens. And while being there and visiting many museums, nothing very particular I was looking for, I just enjoying myself. I had many times seen and heard names mentioned. All of the tourist guides will tell you stories, some Greek myths, some interesting history. And eventually some of these names I just asked very naively, well, what does it mean? And very often they just said, I don't know exactly. It's some sort of pre-Greek word. Then I started to feel very strange because these pre-Greek words sounded more often something similar to Hungarian. Hungarian is my native language. I left Hungary when I was 15, and I was pretty sure that I will never use it and will never need to use it for anything. I was living with my parents. It was still a communist country at that time.
Sorry, Peter, you know perhaps the anecdote that Albert Einstein left the meeting and told to John von Neumann, Edward Teller, Eugene P. Wigner, Leo Szilard, okay, you may continue in Hungarian. And the CIA or FBI or the pre-organization of CIA and FBI the people were in big trouble because they spoke a language and nobody could understand it. And the famous quote of Enrico Fermi, that when they put the question, are there Martian people? You know this story. And Enrico Fermi answered, yes, and they speak a strange language. Okay, sorry for interrupting you.
No, that's nice. So there are many anecdotes, but really it is a little bit strange language. So it is a little bit odd in the middle of Europe, and you go north, you have some connection to Finnish, but it's not like people mutually understand each other in Finland and Hungary. They separated thousands of years ago, but there's some connection, and it's nice to know that we have some.
But sorry for interrupting you, that because a political statement is coming a little bit. The crack of the Soviet Union, if you remember for that one, do you remember how the crack started? It started in the Baltic state, Estonia, Lithuania, and so on. The Estonian language is related to the Finnish language, and Estonian people were the best informed people in the territory of the Soviet Union because they were able to listen to the Finnish radio, the Finnish television, and so on, because Estonian and Finnish are so close to each other that they freely understand. But your statement is absolutely correct that the Hungarian and the Finnish, we don't understand anything. Okay, sorry.
No. It's actually surprising. I could understand a few words. It was just random words when I was in Helsinki. But wow, I understand. I understand this one too. But it's just random words, okay? And distant, okay. But anyway, so I thought it was not going to be useful for me at all. And then I got to Greece. I spent there 6 months or so, a semester with my family, by the way. That's where the nice picture I showed was also from, okay? And I just got interested in this because I heard these names, these pre-Greek names, and then I started to realize they actually are meaningful in Hungarian. So thing I never thought could be useful just immediately became interesting, okay? And then I pursued these things. And then my area, which I was very intensely working on with some colleagues of mine, was very hot area, is bioinformatics. And bioinformatics includes the genome and DNA. And when archaeogenetic data became available, I said, okay, let's just test. Is there any connection or isn't there not, okay? Because I might be just hallucinating or something like that, okay? And there was a connection. So once I had this extra knowledge, extra confirmation of genetic connection, as well as something, then I got more serious and started to take it to the level of trying to solve these scripts. And I have some solutions, and you can read it, the reference is there, okay? It will take a while for people to understand these things. Obviously, nothing is easy. I have actually met some classic scholars who told me that they don't believe in the linear B translations of Michael Ventris. So it's not easy to convince people, okay? That's okay. It's okay. I'm perfectly okay with that, okay?
I would like to ask you how you would explain this connection between these Proto-Greek languages and Hungarian, because what we know from historical time is that Hungary is connected with Huns who came much later. So it is not this time connection because it will be too late. But earlier time, of course, there are many different ways what kind of migrations could take place. But do you have any hypothesis about where will be the source of the connection?
Yes, of course. I greatly appreciate this question. Now, when I was 15, I was actually already learning a lot about these things, okay? That the Hungarians came from the East and so on, and so on, so. But, and they are connected with the Huns, okay? But that's very interesting, okay? Because archaeogenetics is changing the picture regarding this story too, which was part of the history books, okay? And it's just, you know, natural looking. There's some record of Hungarian conquerors in the 9th century coming into that area, which is today Hungary. And, you know, it was not part of communist evil misinterpretation of history, not this part. Okay, you can say other things from the 20th century, but not this part. It just happened to be common belief. But archaeogenetics now says that the conquerors are indeed connected with the Huns, and particularly the royal dynasty, which came in and ruled for 400 plus years, is actually derives from Huns, and they have the connection, closest genetic connection in Mongolia. Now, the problem with that is that Mongolians are not Finno-Ugric speakers, and no linguist ever put the Finno-Ugric language group in Mongolia. Okay, it's just a fact. And so it has to be very much the conclusion that the conquerors did not bring the Hungarian language all the way from Mongolia through the southern parts of the Ural Mountains and to Hungary. It had to exist somewhere close to present-day Hungary, maybe just a little bit to the east of the Roman Empire. So the Romans didn't record any Hungarian language, at least I don't know. But nothing survives about the Etruscans. The Romans didn't and no extant record of Etruscan language. They were neighbors of Rome. In fact, Rome was once an Etruscan city. So, I mean, people were not that interested in languages, okay, linguistics. They didn't record too much, so we don't know where it was exactly the Hungarian language, but it could have been closer to the present-day Hungarian area, maybe just a little bit outside of the Roman Empire. That's my hunch.
Oh,
and the history that goes back a long time is probably very ancient times, Mesolithic, or perhaps earlier times, when the ice age was, people had to be somewhere. Even the ancestors of the Uralic Finno-Ugric people had to be somewhere, and they had to be south, maybe in the Balkans, instead of on the ice, okay? People didn't live in the ice. So probably some groups went north and east, and some groups kind of stayed in those areas. And Hungarians may have been.
I was told by my friend linguist that we have a wrong idea about language, because right now, after forming of formal nation state, we believe that language is related to political divisions. But they were saying that before this, people could live in villages which were like a couple of miles apart, and they could speak completely different languages. There was,
absolutely,
this was encouraged because
please see Papua New Guinea, where there are hundreds of languages. Papua New Guinea right now. So
we don't have to go too far. I can give an example in Nebraska. Okay, we have Indian reservations where they speak Lakota language and Omaha language, and it still survives. Not only that, we have a group which are called Germans from Russia. They went to Russia in the 1700s, okay? Tsar Catherine invited them. They were living in villages, and later on they came to Nebraska in large number in the 19th century, middle of the 19th century. And they kept that language for many years. Churches had, schools had German instruction. And some older people, they still remember those times, okay? So yes, that's how people were, okay? They could keep a language, and the next village will have another language, and it was okay for people to know many languages, okay? One of the trouble is that people don't know so many languages because they are more they have this nation state, so everything can be done in one language. In the past, you had to learn different languages. You wanted to interact with your neighboring village. And I think it was better at that time in that sense, okay.